My Crimey River is a similar theme to what most of my Crimey Rivers usually are, but once again, it was pointed out in the mainstream AFL media. The dissent rule is up in the new the headlines again. Can't speak properly. It's making me angry. It's up in the headlines again, the dissent rule, and it's turned into an absolute stinker once more. It looked like the umpires were starting to use a bit of common sense and, realise that a player acting a little bit emotionally isn't necessarily dissent. It's just he's frustrated with himself or the decision, which you're allowed to be, because there's a big difference between being frustrated with a decision and showing dissent towards an umpire. But this week, it was back in full flight and we saw some absolute stinkers paid. And I'm fed up with it. At what point does the AFL, Brad Scott, listen to what the fans are saying, what the players are saying, the coaches are saying, and think, like, where's the line drawn? Like, how come one guy is making this decision that's pissing everybody off and nothing gets done about it? I think the dissent rule needs to go. I think it should just be common sense that if you abuse an umpire, it's 50. And I'm pretty sure that was always the case anyway. If you yelled at an umpire, like, he could pay 50 for arguing with him. Now they've just made it too much. I'll give one for an example, which I thought was one of the worst ones because he wasn't even arguing with an umpire really, and it was Tom Lynch against the Hawks on the weekend. It was a marking contest, got spilt out, went over the boundary line. Lynch started running back towards the forward line. He turns around, looks at the umpire, and he grabs his arm, and he was insinuating to the umpire, like, hey, keep an eye out. Like, they keep grabbing my arm. Like, watch for it because they're grabbing me. Umpire pays a free kick. So you're not allowed to ask the umpire to take notice of an opposition player, which I'm not all for dobbing on your opposition either, but that's not dissent. You're not telling him off. You're just saying, oh, you have a look over here. He's grabbing me for the next contest. So they pick up on it. But they paid a free kick against him, and that was one of the bad ones. And there was a few more over the weekend as well, which I'm sure most of you have seen throughout the media platforms all over social media at the moment. But yeah, it's pissing me off, and it's making the game hard to watch. Do you agree?
And it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm completely fed up with it. There's no problem with a player abusing and getting a 50. That is completely fine. I have no issues with that. And I mean, I feel like it's been like that for years anyway, but I'm happy for them to crack down on it and have zero tolerance with abuse. But when you're just asking a question, or you're frustrated with yourself, or you go to argue and you stop yourself from doing it, that should be fine. Let that go. But when you and the penalty doesn't fit the crime either. 50 meters is way too harsh for just throwing your hands up or a little bit of back chat.
Yeah,
way too harsh.
Putting your arms in the air. I can't remember his name. What was the Bulldogs player on the weekend who got pushed in the back by Isaac Quinn?
Yeah, Karmas.
That's it. Turned around and he's kind of just gone. Yeah. He shrugged.
He was smiling.
And shrugging come on, really?
Yeah.
50.
It's ridiculous.
Even the DeGoey one, I know we're not the biggest advocates for DeGoey on the show,
that was
but
bad.
DeGoey, he went to yell and you could see he internalized it and just sort of went, just kept it to himself. He looked away from the umpire, just tried not to react. Umpire goes, no, you bring it here 50 meters. It's too harsh of a punishment.
Yeah.
Because it's changing tides of the game.
Yeah.
For what's happening. If you yell or abuse an umpire, fair enough, 50, make it 100 meters even if you're abusing an umpire. But if you're just throwing your arms in the air what was that for? That 50 is way too harsh, and I don't know. I'm really not all for it.
Yeah, no, it's not great. I get what they're trying to do, and I'm all for it, trying to stamp out the abuse towards umpires. Abuse, fair enough, but when it comes to raising your arms and simply asking a question on why the decision was made, it's ridiculous. Yeah, and it's going to cost. It's going to cost someone a final. A big game down the track, and where the footy world's going to explode.
Absolutely. And I mean, we know like you said, we know the reasoning behind it. It's to encourage more umpires to join and make it a safer environment for umpires, this and that. But it's just making people hate umpires more because they're cracking down on something that's not that serious. And I mentioned it earlier, but at what point does, something that how come Brad Scott is the only one that has all that? I know his position and he's the one that makes the rules essentially. But surely there's a governing board that can turn around and be like, look, this rule isn't working. People hate it. The players hate it. It's ridiculous. It's gotten out of control. Let's change it or tweak it even. Let's fix something up because it's wrong. Instead of him sitting in his high horse and not admitting, that he's done anything wrong.
I know.
It's a killer.
I think.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's the same with the different topic altogether, but it's the same with the MRO. You got one guy sitting there making these decisions. And I used to prefer when it was the match review panel when you had a few people, but now it's one guy, and if you don't agree, too bad.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't like how the rules are all set up and the way that you govern them. And this dissent rule is killing me, and it's making football really hard to watch.
I think the new AFL CEO is going to have a lot of things to have a look at when he comes in.
Well, I'm hoping Gil can make some good changes before he leaves too.
I don't know. I feel like Gil can be
he won't do anything
pretty
drastic,
stubborn with he's probably going to want to see it through and see how it goes. But
a bit of both, I think, with Gil. Like sometimes you see that stubbornness side of him, and he doesn't want to budge or make moves, and then other times you see that he can really relate to the fans, and I feel like that part of him might take over. Like you saw when just before Buddy kicked his 1,000th goal, and he was saying like on the front bar, he was like, "Look, you're not allowed to run on the ground," but he wanted people on the ground, but he couldn't officially say. I think hopefully something similar is going through his head where he's like, "Look, I understand the reasoning behind this decision, the rule and all that. It's a good rule, but like the idea behind the rule is good. Your head was in the right place, but it's not working, and people hate it. Like I don't know one person that goes, I love this new dissent rule. Like it hasn't helped anybody. I don't even think it's helped umpires that much. No. Yeah, that's a big crime.
Yeah, no, I know, mate. I know. I completely feel that. Hopefully it changes, or just I don't know.
Tweak it.
Just tweak it. Just fix it to make it more justifiable.
I think but that's the thing. I think the way that it always was fine in the sense that if you abuse an umpire, it was 50 anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they had to bring in this dissent rule, and then now the interpretation of dissent is different between umpire to umpire, because I've seen arms go up and nothing's paid, or people shake their head, nothing's paid with one umpire, but then the umpire on the other side of the ground pays it. I'm like, well, it's going to be consistent.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, none of our rules are, because it's all up to interpretation, 95% of them. So this was just another unnecessary one that didn't need to be brought in.
Yep.